Good afternoon. This is Talking Trade Live with On the Tools. Once again, a mad dash across London because I don't have reception here to get to an area where I can broadcast from. For those that don't know me, my name's Andy, and I'm going to be the host for the next half hour or so. And joining me is Adam Colley from Manchester, a house builder up there. And today's topic is our wonderful PM, Boris, his announcement that he's going to boost the economy by pumping lots of money into our great industry, construction, which always makes me smile because, Adam, firstly, welcome. But what do you think he means by that?
Trying to open sites too soon. He's realising the industry's on its knees and he's trying to open it and get people back to work when it's not ready and it's not safe to do, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's not. We were just talking a little bit there before we've come on air. You know, we're in a Victorian house doing a refurb. One of the rooms in metric is 3 meters by 2.4, so perfect for a sheet of plasterboard. But this is soundboard. So as you know, they're 44 kilos. It's 2.4 long. You need 3 of you to get that up. So the whole social distance thing on small builds like what I do, and even on new builds, we've got a lot of people on site, isn't working. He said, though, he's putting a lot of money into construction. Where on earth do you see that going? And do you think he actually knows what he's talking about?
It'll just go to large companies. It won't come to the small companies such as myself. We've struggled to get funding for anything, really. Basically, no support. As a self-employed person, you're getting the self-employed income support for the COVID, but you have to wait 3 months for it. You know, most people are living hand to mouth. And to be honest, it is affecting people in large ways. I know a lot of people haven't been able to work. Plasterers, for instance, there's no plaster. Tool theft's actually gone up because the people know the tools are sat in the vans because they're not doing anything. I actually had my van done a week ago. They didn't get anything, but the back was drilled through. So
Do you think they were disturbed then?
I hope so, yeah. I think that's what it was. There's a fault with my type of van. And everyone knows about it, so it's a weakness. So I've had to spend just over £1,100 when I've not got any money coming in to repair the damage, fit new locks, fit an alarm, and do all these things that I shouldn't be having to do.
So you're a small house builder. Take us through your sort of typical job then. Do you buy the land, or do you buy something to sort of knock down and redevelop? And you know, where do you get your funding from at the moment? Do you go? Is it private, or are they government ways of helping at the moment?
We've not looked into any government support whatsoever for these. It's literally our own finance and investors. We started off with a buy-to-let, which had a plot of land to the side, which we knew we could build on. And trying to get that through has been a nightmare, but we're getting there. We should be able to start in about 6 weeks. So we're just waiting for the building regulation plans to come back, and then we can actually start the build. But the other projects we've got going on, we've got several plots in Middleton. We know the landowner who's looking to get rid of them. So we're quite lucky that it's not gone to open market. It was a private sale.
But in terms of financing, Boris has said that he's going to pump the construction industry full of money. But small house builders and developers such as yourself, you don't envisage seeing a penny, do you?
I'll be honest, I wasn't even aware we could open for that. We could apply for any type of funding off it.
Yeah.
If we can, then fantastic. But as far as I'm aware, or as far as I know, there isn't anything for me or my company.
Well, just let's go back to as quickly the shortage of materials, because we had a very active show last week. There's, as we all know, there's plaster all over the place. It's either getting stolen or sold for silly money. There's a huge shortage of that. There's soft sand shortage, timber, paint's now on a month where I am. Really? How are you finding things up there? Are you seeing a slowdown in materials being released?
Yeah, I've got a buy-to-let refurb going on in Blackpool. So we managed to do the bathroom. We done the rewire, and then we're just ready for the plastering. But the plot's been sat there for 6 weeks with nothing done to it. And we only just managed to get some plaster by constantly phoning around suppliers. And a local one said, yeah, we've got a pallet that's going out in 10 minutes. So I had to shoot up there as quick as I could and do what I could to get what I needed.
Now, if you've just joined the show, we are talking about Boris's announcement that he's going to be pumping lots of money into construction to boost the economy. My guest today, Adam, and I are trying to work out what the hell that means. Please send comments in the well, your thoughts. What do you think Boris means by this? Bottom line is, has he got a clue? Because there's no gear to build with. So I can't see what he means by lots of money coming in. As Adam, you've just said, you also don't think it's actually that safe to go back to work yet.
No, like I say, we're on a site at the moment, which we're quite lucky. There's loads of space and we can keep distance. It's an old club, so there's 2 gents and 2 ladies, lots of toilets. So the 4 of us have our own workspace, our own toilets, the area to eat on our own. So we can socially distance, but on new build sites, there's no chance doing that.
Well, it's so I'm just reading a lot of the comments coming in. Please keep them coming. Yeah, as you know, barbers are on lockdown. That's why I look homeless. I do live in a house, but as soon as they're open, which I believe is July the 4th, this lot will be coming off. So thanks for the comments from all of you. But yeah, I do look like an absolute Burke. I can't wait to get it off. We're talking about Boris's announcement. He's going to boost the economy by putting fortunes into construction. We've talked about materials being absolute nightmare last week. We're not getting anything from paint to timber. Plaster's obviously a ridiculous issue. Adam, let's say as a small developer, new house builder, you do get access to this money, which I think we've realised is going to be virtually impossible. What will you then do about materials, knowing you've got, let's say, 3 or 4 new builds coming up? Are you going to stockpile things like bricks, blocks, bags of dust, etc., because there's a chance they're going to run out?
If it comes to it, then you're going to have to. But it's a double-edged sword, because if we start hoarding materials, it's, yes, we've got it, but it means someone else is missing out. Whereas that material might be replenished in 2 weeks, and we might have it there for 4. So you feel kind of bad doing so. Like the project we had in Blackpool, he was only allowed 5 bags. So I got 5, got the customer in front of me to go around and get 5, and had some friends and family come along to get the other lot. So although it's like, yeah, it's good I managed to get it, it means someone else lost out. But I mean, it was only one house. So these people that are plasterers full time, they must be really struggling. I'm not a plasterer, so as soon as that job was done, it's kind of not an issue for me anymore. But my plasterer that does all the work for me, he's had to take on gardening jobs. He's been doing bits of gutter cleaning, anything he can just to bring some money in. Because there was a comment a second ago, I think it's called Ian. He was saying that he's got the 80% of his wages.
Sorry, Ian Sproat, my apologies. He's seen no help whatsoever. 80% of minimum wage doesn't help anyone as a director of a 2-person company, won't even pay the bills. And because I'm by lockup personally, I couldn't claim the grant. Now, we've touched upon this in the last few shows, but the reality, sole director of a limited company sounds wonderful. I'm one of those. It's basically me and my Todd, and I bring in all the lads when I need them. Bottom line is you get 80% of what you pay yourself. We all pay ourselves, 720 quid a month, and then the rest in dividends. So we get absolutely bugger all. So Ian, I'm with you on that, mate. It's I heard rumours that they were going to help us sole directors, but apparently not now. So apologies, I can't bring this hot Thursday some good news for you. Now, sort of looking back at it, we had a question last week. We had 2 spreads, 2 bricklayers on, and I asked the question, I want to hear your thoughts on this. My view is more materials are going to run out. We're meant to be back to work, so demand's flying, supply can't because of lockdown, factories keeping social distancing rules. Do you think trade should have priority over Joe Bloggs coming in off the street for materials?
There'd have to be an element of that, whether there's emergency works, which I'm sure will be covered by trades anyway. But yeah, there should be something in there to protect the people that need the materials. Because when lockdown happened, I know some suppliers around my way actually just kept the plaster for government projects. I'm not sure if that was a rule by the government or what, but that's what they told me, that it needed to go to them as priorities, the Nightingale hospitals, all that kind of thing. So that made sense. But now that's been done, the next priority should be the tradespeople that use it for the living.
James Hibbert, it's a very sad story, mate. Thanks for being honest. He said, I can only see the industry going downhill. He struggled to find a foot in the door to get into the trade because of the virus, and I don't think I'll have any chance now. Now, again, we've looked at apprenticeships on weeks gone by. Adam, your views on we need more youngsters coming in. Let's be honest, we're really, really short of youngsters and apprentices coming in. What is your view on this? Is the current apprenticeship scheme any good, or does it need completely ripping up and starting from scratch?
I've got a very bad view on apprentices. I know this is probably going to get some bad comments here, but I've tried taking on 3 apprentices and none of it's worked. The first one was my friend's younger brother, young lad, just starting college, went to pick him up to do some weekend work to see what he was like. Picked him up on a Saturday, got in the van, hungover, stinking a bit. I was like, just get out. Your first day, I can understand he's a young lad and he's wanting to live his life, but the first day you're working for someone to try to get your foot in the door, I was like, right, you're done. The second one didn't even turn up. A friend of a friend booked it, arranged the meeting, sat down, discussed everything. Right, okay, you can start here. We'll take you on for a couple of days, see how you go. He didn't even turn up. There was no phone call, no nothing. Tried phoning his parents, couldn't get through to them. Found out later that he just wasn't bothered, but didn't bother to tell me. And then the third one is my girlfriend's nephew. Took him on. This was an awkward one because he was fantastic. It was frustrating. He was doing roofing, trigonometry, pretty difficult subject to get your head around, never mind having to do it whilst you're building. Picked it up, like, instantly. I'm looking and thinking, you clearly haven't got what I've said and you're taking the mick or you're just ignoring me. But he did. He absorbed everything like a sponge. Common sense, it was fantastic. So he done all his school holidays, Easter holidays, 6 weeks, anything he had. Started college, first actual day of being an employee, quits. So I'm like, you're kidding me. So he went on to do some other study, and now he's dropped out of that as well. And you're just thinking, I'm not going to bother again. So as far as I'm concerned,
the thing I find is these things, they are stuck to them. It's almost like it's an attachment of their body. They're stuck to them, and I think that work ethic seems to have skipped or missing out the next generation, because there's not many youngsters that want to come in and seriously put their back into it and graft. It just seems maybe there's a different way of living now, but we need to get youngsters in. And this apprenticeship, I think we'll probably have to cover this one again, because the last show was brilliant. We had a lot of really good thoughts on that. I just want to James Hibbert, sorry, my apologies, James. Michael Bryan, I think trade should get I like this, should get the first 2 hours of the shops opening in places like B&Q and Wix, as we use them a lot. So what he's saying is possibly places such as them, where you do get your DIYs going in. I suppose you could say it's similar to NHS and elderly getting the first hour in supermarkets. What do you think of that, Adam?
I've not thought about that. When I read it, I was thinking that's a cracking idea. It helps people out, and then people have got something to do with the time. So this is why people are doing DIY.
Yeah.
So let them in afterwards once the necessary stuff's been done. So that's a cracking idea. If that could be implemented, I think that would help a lot of people out. I
think that's absolutely brilliant. Michael Bryan, there might be a job going soon as Prime Minister of Great Britain, and I'm voting for you. Get your CV forward, mate. Great comment. First 2 hours for trades. Listen, NHS and key workers and elderly had the first hour in supermarkets, and deservedly so. Let's give us trades the first 2 hours. We can go and pick up some gear. Ian Sproat, welcome again, mate. You're a regular viewer. I love your comments. We live in a world of kids wrapped in cotton wool and social media millionaires, unfortunately. So apprentices don't want to put the graft in. They all want to be YouTube stars. Do you know what, Ian? I sadly agree with that. Adam, have we got any hope of getting youngsters in?
Well, James has just put up a really good point there. And I've seen this happen a lot, where apprentices come through, if they do want to get in the trade, they start off on minimum wage or less than minimum wage. They get through, they get the qualifications, and just as the wage has to go up because they're qualified, the company lets them go just to bring in someone else. But I've heard that so many times.
Do you know what's difficult? You've got it from both sides. You've got people that qualify and then they're let go because it was cheap labour. But then you've got the ones that qualify and go and set up on their own or go somewhere else and earn more. So I can see both sides. There's no loyalty from firms or apprentices staying together. I think, again, that's back down to the apprenticeships. It's a complete mess at the moment.
I think there's a simple way around that.
Sorry, go on, Adam. Sorry to interrupt.
I think there's a simple way around that. If they do go through the full apprenticeship and they stay X amount of years, say 5, for instance, I wouldn't know, that basically has the company's investment paid back in them 5 years, then they're free to go off. But if they leave before then, they pay X amount or a sum of money to cover their education.
Sorry, Grant Scandling, youngsters want $1,000 a week rather than doing the hard yards. Do you know what they do? I mean, we had a trainee bricklayer on a few weeks ago. Apprentice wage, she was on £3.70 an hour. Now, times 8, you're not really making 30 quid a day, which as we know, you can't really live off unless you're at home with your mum and dad. But then when you do qualify, your rates are going up. You know, are kids looking to try and get too much money because they're seeing these clowns on YouTube earning millions?
I don't think so. Do you mean in the trade, or millionaires just being
coming in
YouTubers?
when you'll give an unskilled labourer 50, 60 quid a day, which I think is reasonable money for someone that's just sweeping up and keeping the place tidy and maybe, knocking out your mixer and cleaning stuff up. Are they worth more than that? Do we need to pay youngsters more to get them in?
No, I know plenty of labourers that are on £60 as a profession, not just trying to find something to do between jobs. So I've not been in that situation, so I don't know the full finances, so I can't say. But I wouldn't say they need much more than that. But apprentices starting on that little bit less probably annoys them. But they're getting the education. That's where their payment's coming from. Not in money, in actual knowledge. So it's that getting them to see that long-term effect. They're looking short-term for everything because everything's instant these days. Anything you want at a click. But they need to understand that experience can't be bought. It can't be on a click. It's not instant. It takes time. So seeing that long-term investment in themselves is where it comes from.
Let's go back to Boris's comment. We obviously know that the housing minister is in the news at the moment for possibly allegedly working for a consultancy whilst housing minister, putting plans through before the laws were changed. Do you think, we've had this conversation on all previous shows, it comes back to it, do more tradespeople such as you and me need to be advising the government more compared with the suits at the top that quite frankly have never been on a building site?
They haven't got a clue. Some of the stuff they're coming out with for builders to do, or how they think things should be built, you're thinking, you've never done it. Site foremen are always apprentices, then trades, then site foremen, because they've gone through that and they understand the process. You can't get someone just to look at something and go, oh, that's how it works, I'll tell them how to do it better. They need to be brought through the trades. If the construction industry supplied the government with people that were prepared to take on them roles and tell them how things should be and advise them, I think it'd be a lot better, being an inside looking out rather than outside looking in.
Well, I think looking at it, we're taking a lot of direction here, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, Adam. We're taking a lot of direction from government about, you think we were the first industry to go back to work. They're now saying they want to put a load of money into us. But I think if you look at all the MPs that are involved, the housing minister, their experience on the tools, on a site, running a building company, doing new builds, it's none. How can we take them seriously? Because in my view, they haven't got a clue.
They don't. If you show me someone that knows what they're doing, that's not been on the tools, I'll be very impressed. Because they can't understand all the ins and outs, the intricacies of how things are dealt with, the trades interact with each other, how the building process goes from start to completion, to hand over to the client. There's so much they're not understanding. And just going back to work this soon, it's ridiculous. I mean, I'm working with a few people here. Now, we're like family or friends, we've been very close and we're staying kind of in our own bubbles. So, yeah, we've got the 2 meter distance, but we're kind of isolated amongst ourselves is what we've done, so we can be a bit safer. But people that are working on sites that don't know the person stood next to them, no, I really don't like it. A lot of my mates are in the trade. My best mate's a brickie, and he's on site with people that are just being brought in left, right, and centre. And they're saying they're working different hours and staggering entries. But yeah, okay, they're staggering entry, but once you're on site, there's no stagger there. They're all on the same site. So coming in 2 hours later doesn't make a difference.
Well, there's I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. It's Karim Mitani. He said, just an idea, government pays the salary for an apprenticeship under a contract. If the apprentice decided to jack it in, they have to pay the government back. Maybe Boris can pump some money in for the future of the industry. It's not a bad comment, Adam. What do you think of it?
If it helps people get into apprenticeships, it's needed.
Yeah.
There aren't any apprenticeships out there. Like I say, I've struggled with the ones I took on. Maybe I should have a bit more structured and gone through the colleges. So that could be part of my fault. But yeah, if there's something to support them, then yeah. But as you say, the lads that are coming on at the moment just on the phones, they're not bothered.
So we were talking trade live on the tools. We were talking about Boris's announcement, but it's been met by pretty much a wall of silence. And do you know what? I've got to say, I can understand that, because he's promising the world to an industry that's really on its knees. We've got no gear coming through. We've got no apprentices coming through, and the demand for everything's going sky high. So we're moving on now back to materials and apprentices. So we're doing a bit of a general chat on this week's show. Adam, there's talk of all materials getting to the point where there isn't anything by Christmas, which means we could grind to a halt. We've obviously been through the obvious ones, the plaster and some timber merchants and paint. Could that happen, mate? Do you actually see it? You know, let's look at electrics. Electrician with me today was looking for a certain brush chrome MK face plates for the sockets and switches. One of the components in them comes from China. Can't find them anywhere. So it's impacting us a lot more than we think, isn't it? Just the big stuff.
There's things that's happened in this that you just couldn't even envisage happening. I was saying before when we was having a little chat, a friend of mine was buying a house. He's about to exchange, so he's moved into a temporary accommodation, basically renting off this bloke. The bloke that owned the house, his idea was to go caravanning around Wales. So my mate's moved into this house, renting it. This bloke's gone off in a caravan and been told by the police to come back. So he's got to now live on his own drive in the caravan whilst my mate's renting his house. And he's like, when you getting the keys, when you getting the keys, when you're moving out? And he's like, look, we can't. Everything got shut down. So he can't move. And this bloke's living on his own drive now when he should be somewhere in Wales.
Well, Claire Louise Priestley's, I'm really pleased to read this comment. Her boy's 17. He's looking to start an apprenticeship. He's got a brilliant work ethic. Not every young person is the same. He's been on site with his dad since he was 14 in the holidays and knows how hard the work is. Claire, my apologies if I came across as saying all youngsters, because it's not. There are, as you say, such as your son, ones that have got a great work ethic and want to come into construction. But sadly, I think it's the majority of youngsters would rather try and make stuff on their phone or YouTube channel. But Claire, it's great to hear that your lad is looking to get into the industry, and by the sounds of it, if he's been grafting since 14, it will be second nature and he'll fly through it. So I wish you all the best with your son, and by the sounds of it, working with your other half, he's halfway there. So apologies if that came across wrong. We were just trying to say that I think the youngsters, compared with when the likes of Adam and I were young, there's other options, isn't there, with YouTube and phones and stuff. Now, just looking at a few more comments, Adam. Patricia Cahill, this is the thing which we're all facing. We've been put back to work, but the suppliers weren't open, so we couldn't get the materials. How is this going to work, mate? Because I'm genuinely worried that we are going to run out of gear properly, not just locally, regionally, but nationally. Spreads are having to drive all over the place to pick up plaster. I'm driving around London at the moment trying to find a certain well-known brand of paint because there's a month lead time. It's going downhill, mate, isn't it? It's getting worse.
Yeah, we're on, what is it, 70% pay now from the government?
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
okay,
you're on 70% pay, you've got that, you've got to go back to work, but there's no materials. So soon people won't be earning anything or any type of government support to go do a job that they can't get the materials for. So I can see it having a lot of effect. We've got another job that's going on, and all it needs is some timber. And we've actually had to take the stage down from this club we're working on, because the stage was going anyway, which were 2x5s, and cut them down to make the wall out of, just because we needed the timber. So we're recycling materials on site, which is probably a good thing, don't get me wrong. No, but the fact that we're having to cut timber down to just make a simple wall is madness.
But also, you wouldn't have priced up for you to rip down 5x2s to 4x2s.
No.
So again, it's just
go get it and get cracking.
Yeah, exactly. This is Talking Trade Live with On the Tools. My guest today is Adam Colley. We're talking about Boris's announcement. He's going to pump fortunes into construction to get the economy moving again. Adam, it seems to be without construction, he wouldn't have anything to kind of lean on. We were the first back at work ahead of any industry. He's now saying he's going to put all this money in. But as we said earlier, they really haven't got a clue. Do you believe, we talked about this last week, do you believe certain training bodies, federations need to be doing more with Parliament? The MPs need to be lent on a lot harder to start speaking to people that have actually know what they're doing, because as you know, with federations and trade clubs, you pay your annual membership, you get a bit of this and a bit of that, but are they doing enough with MPs? This is the time we need them, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never had much dealing with it, so I'd struggle to really comment with any kind of background knowledge. But yeah, they could do with speaking to the people that, again, are on the tools. The MPs don't understand the situation. They need to go to people that know and get advice from them. If you're talking about building anything, you go to a structural engineer because they understand how things go together. So an MP should be going to the construction bodies, the trade industries, anything, to get the advice that they need. Again, it's just going back to the simple things, like you can't move stuff around with it not being 2 meters away from each other. Like as you're saying before, the soundboard is more than 25 kilos, so you need 2 people. And it's like, oh yeah, it's fine, just put a mask on, you're okay. But someone's touched that. They've touched that plasterboard, say they've got it, then you go and move it again, or you're sharing tools or anything. It's madness.
Well, if you look at it, there's 3 of us on it, 1 each end and 1 in the middle with a lift. So, chuck us the impact driver to start screwing it up. You're holding a 44 kilo sheet of soundboard, and you've asked one of the lads to pass you the impact driver because you dropped it on the floor. As you say, he's touched it. So these are the little points. It's a minuscule point, but if you look at it, would anyone in government have any idea about this? No. And I think that's my worry. Do you think construction, because we've gone back possibly too early or possibly with the wrong guidelines in place, that a second wave is possible, or do you think we're actually beyond that now?
It's inevitable. There's been legal raves, there's been all sorts of people gathering, and they're saying they can't do that. I think if they just said, right, I will go back to work willingly as soon as all the MPs are sat next to each other in the House of Parliament.
Yeah.
If they can sit next to each other and they're fine with it, then we'll go back. But until then, if they're not prepared to do it, why should we?
It's a good point. Linda Pender. Yes, I'm with you on this. Linda's said, we can get a quotation for materials. The cost increases overnight, doesn't it just? So even difficult to cost jobs. With so many materials coming from abroad, this is only going to get worse. Adam, I'm totally in agreement with Linda. Price rises. Has anyone factored this into a job? I haven't.
No, it wasn't even considered when I've done my quotes, and we're on jobs that are 6-7 months long. You can't have even predicted something like this happening.
Well, I remember when there was the brick and block shortage, obviously that caused problems with prices. There was a fire at one of the insulation plants. For some reason, that meant they could put their prices up. I was in the middle of a loft conversion. We had a load of insulation coming, and it went up something like 18% overnight because of this shortage. How the hell are we going to absorb that? You can't go to a customer and go, oh, it's 18% on top of all that. We just look like a bunch of idiots. I mean, it's. Do you think the whole industry needs flipping on its head, starting again when it was great in the 50s, 60s, and to an extent the 70s?
I wasn't really working on the sites then. I'm a bit too young for that.
When we came out of the war, Britain was booming for obvious reasons. But now it seems to me the last 20, 30 years, it's not being led well, let's say, by government or federations. I think we need more people. My point is more people like yourself that can sit down and advise. Someone that's been on the tools or still on the tools, that can sit down with MPs and say, right, okay, you want us to go back to work. Have you thought about scaffolding being a metre wide? We're going to levitate the extra metres to keep the social distancing. How do you get that soundboard up that's nearly 50 kilos on your Todd? Do you feel in that case, mate, that we need to possibly rely on media owners and people with a clout to maybe start getting something moving, that we can go to government and say, you need to start listening to people that know what they're talking about?
There's something, but it's again going back to just, even if they said, okay, right, we'll pump some money in, here's the materials. If we had the money and the materials to get cracking, it's still not safe to do so. So when banks, with the bank crisis, they offered 131 billion overnight to all the banks to bail them out. This has happened. All the self-employed people have got to wait 3 months, and I think it was 9.3 billion they've put up for it. And you've got to wait 3 months for it. So yes, I understand banks are massive financial institutions and a lot relies on them, but they got the money overnight, 131 billion. Self-employed people that are living hand to mouth are waiting 3 months to get anything.
and we're 10% of the economy. What would they do without construction? Who built? I mean, I'm, as I say, working in London. I'm looking at these gorgeous Victorian townhouses. People built these with their own hands. You know, they're not giving construction workers the credit where there's some amazingly skilled trades doing incredible stuff, and we've been treated like dirt.
It's an easy target.
Yeah.
The construction industry is such an easy target. During a bust, no one builds, so the industry gets hit first. And now we're trying to start back up and we're being forced to go back, and you've not got the materials.
The other thing, Adam, just quickly, I appreciate we're running out of time. We're having a chat today. There's 6 of us at work today. We've got 2 sparks, which is obviously a nightmare because they're taking over the job. There's little bits of plastic and wire clippings everywhere, tripping over each other. What else have we got? We've got a plasterer, a decorator, and a labourer. And we've been having a chat. We think, or potentially, there's something in the paper, 60% of people on furlough could lose their jobs. For the private sector, renovations and extensions, new builds, that potentially is going to have a big impact, isn't it? If no one's got any money because they haven't got a job.
Wow. Well, no, that statistic, but 60%, that's...
It was in, well, okay, it was in one of the red tops, so we don't know where the figure came from, but, you know, it's that there is a chance a big percentage are going to lose their job. So, you know, no one's taken that into account. If you're saving up for an extension, you've got 30 grand saved and you're ready to go and you lose your job, that poor builder is not going to be getting the work. Is that something which we need to take a bit more seriously with this?
I hadn't even considered that as a factor, but yeah, that's quite scary because then people that now don't have materials won't have future work.
Or flip side, someone that's possibly gone out and bought a lot of timber, you know, a load of 8x2s for the roof, bricks, blocks, sand, cement, they've got nowhere to use it because they can't go into work. I mean, it just seems mad that you and I are having this chat with viewers sending in some very, very good comments, yet MPs haven't got a clue. I just find it absolutely staggering. Joanne Holden, I think you're a regular viewer, so welcome again. It would be, do the government ministers good to actually spend a week? Oh, I love this, Joanna. Sorry, Joanne. Spend a week on the tools or in any kind of work they advise on. They have no idea of the real world. Joanne, you're at the top of my Christmas card list with that comment. It's brilliant. I would love to see the housing minister and Boris on a trowel running the line or cutting up massive 8x2s to pitch a roof with, putting a hit on the wall when it's absolutely boiling hot and going off in minutes. Yeah. It's true though, Adam, isn't it? You can't be in charge of something you don't know anything about.
No, another little thing that kind of bugs me, some of my mates on site, they've got to wear full length pants and shirts in boiling heat because they might get sunstroke, but they're going to get heat stroke. Some of them passed out last year.
Yeah.
You're thinking, well, some guy in health and safety said, oh, you need to do this because it's safer. All right, you stand there, never mind working it. Stand in that temperature, wearing all that full PPE, and then come back and tell me how it should be done. They won't last 2 minutes.
A mate of mine is a bricklayer, very, very good bricklayer, quite old school. And exactly that comment, he was told he had to wear long trousers. And he said, well, what am I going to hurt myself on the string line? Well, I'm going to get a little I mean, he lays bricks quick, but he's not quick to get a friction burn on the string. I mean, who's writing this garbage? You know, it's you've got to be comfortable to do any work. If you're in an office, if you're on a site, you know, if you're in a hospital, you've got to be comfortable. And keeping, you know, all this gear on, it just makes it impossible. So I think it's a good way to finish a difficult show, because I think sadly what we've got here is a lot of viewers that are exactly on the same page as Adam and I, that we had an announcement from the PM Boris this week. He's going to put all this money into construction to get the economy going. But one thing we found out over the last half an hour or so is he doesn't really know where that money's going or how it's going to help. He hasn't addressed material shortages, people still on furlough. Apologies if I couldn't read out all the comments, but there's a lot of you still on furlough. So I was just trying to see the last one it's gone through. So thank you for listening and viewing this week. This has been Talking Trade Live. Adam, thanks for your time. Maybe next time I'll see you in Houses of Parliament. We can sort those claims out. And we'll be back again same time next week, 12:30. Enjoy the hot weather, and rumours has it there's a few pubs opening.
Yeah. May I just ask one thing? We'll go back to Claire's comment, Claire Priestley, about a young boy that was 17, her son, I think it was.
Her son, yeah.
Yeah. Can we just find out roughly where they live if she wants to comment? Maybe someone could help them out.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Adam. Claire Louise Priestley, you sent a message 10 to 1. Your 17-year-old lad. my apologies, Adam. You picked up on this. I missed it. He's looking to start an apprenticeship. Sorry, I misread that. If he's got a great work ethic, let's listen. Everybody that's watching, Claire, could you please post what part of the country in? Don't be exact, but if you're sort of Midlands or South, and we will see. Sorry, there's more comments coming. It might be Claire. Claire, if you can, stick it up. If not, we'll put it up next week because, listen, one thing everyone in construction is a great bunch and we do what we can to help each other out. So I'm sure there'll be somebody in the area that either knows someone or can certainly help your lad out because by the sounds of it, that's the type of person, your boy, that we need more of in this industry. Here we go, Newark. So if anybody is in Newark or near there, or certainly has contacts up there, please contact On the Tools. Looking for an apprentice with a great work ethic, because there's a great lad here that needs an apprenticeship, and by the sounds of it, he's the perfect guy for the job. So put the feelers out and let's see what we can do to help Claire and her son. But we've run out of time. Adam, thanks again. Thanks for everyone for getting in touch. And as I say, the sun is beaming. What are we now? We're 34 here in London, looking on the van thermometer. And as I say, rumours have it the pubs are starting to open for takeaways. So I'm out of here. See you next week.
Look after yourself. Goodbye.